This is Coach Noah Church. You found my video coaching series on recovering from porn addictions and porn-induced sexual dysfunctions. Hello Rebooters, I hope you're all having a wonderful PMO-free day. Today I have a long letter from a subscriber as he details his story, his journey, his struggles as he has tried to get away from porn and heal himself from his porn-induced dysfunctions and issues. Before I get into that, however, which I think we can all learn a lot from, I want to announce that I'm doing a live stream next Sunday, May 6th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll be looking over some comments that I've gotten in the last couple of months on the YouTube channel, responding to the more interesting ones, and also taking Q&A and whatever questions or issues you want me to respond to and answer. I'll go ahead and do that in that live stream. If you're a Patreon supporter, and you can find my link to my Patreon in the description below, then you can ask questions ahead of time and I'll address those ones first. So if you want to be sure to get your questions answered, you can go over to Patreon and support me, minimum $1 a month. It means a lot, and I'd love to see you over there. All right, let's get into this letter, shall we? Hi, Noah. I just want to start off by thanking you for everything you're doing. You're an absolute saint. I was hoping that I could ask you for some advice on how to cure myself of PIED. I genuinely thought I had it under control, but this is the last straw. Here's my background. I'm currently 19 years old, and I started looking at porn at around 11 years old. The average age of first exposure to porn is 11 years old. So this just typifies the kind of environment that children are growing up in now. Whether it's accidental or on purpose, kids are seeing this content online, and it's not just images of naked bodies or healthy, loving couples having sex. It's all sorts of content, much of it very extreme or taboo. Stuff that 11-year-olds certainly should not be seeing. So why should we be surprised that these kids are growing up and having issues? I was first exposed and I sought it out when I was 9 years old, and I was addicted looking back from the time I was 10. And it affected a lot of my life. It had a very negative impact on my relationships, on my image of sexuality and romance and interplay between the sexes, and also my ability to enjoy an intimate relationship and have that in my life. And that's done the same for many, many others in the world. So that's why I do this, is to start this conversation so we can all address this as a real issue. Starting off with just bikini pictures and then moving on to videos. I would watch pornography at any given chance, usually 2 or 3 times a day. I'm not the most athletic guy necessarily, but I intend to start exercising again soon. I never escalated into very hardcore porn, and I never had any bizarre fetishes. I first began to really notice my symptoms when I was 15 years old, and God, I wish I did something about it back then. It never bothered me too much because I thought I would be fine when it came to the real deal, as that was what I had really been wanting, being a teenage boy. Yeah, it was the same with me. Pornography was never really satisfying. It was just sort of a way to scratch the itch. But after using pornography, I was never like thinking, oh my God, that was so amazing. Never basked in an afterglow of using pornography. There's no cherished memories of using pornography. It's just a cheap, shallow substitute for what we really want, which is a satisfying, intimate, relationship and those experiences with real people. At 16, I actually began to cut porn out as I had a girlfriend, although it was long distance. Obviously, with it being a long distance relationship, we couldn't be physically intimate with each other. So to make up for that, we would FaceTime and watch each other masturbate. Now I was able to get an erection, however, I would have to touch myself first. I could not just get an erection just by watching her, even though I found her so attractive. Again, I didn't think much of it at the time. Looking back on this, I'm not sure if this did me any good, as I was still masturbating to an image on the screen, if that makes sense. Yeah, I get this question a lot. Guys are asking, my girlfriend is long distance, and is it okay if she sends me sexy pictures, or we FaceTime or Skype, and we're masturbating with each other through that computer interface? And is that okay? Is that going to set me back? And the answer is not a clear yes or a no. It's certainly much better than seeking out pornography, and it's much different from going to a pornography website and seeing dozens of different women or different porn performers and being able to click from video to video, having that endless array of novelty before you, and you actually are interacting with another person. It's not just your needs that matter, it's also the needs and the desires of the person that you are chatting with online. But at the same time, it's still a screen. You're still touching yourself. There's none of the same stimuli, the smells and sounds and the sensations, the touch that are present in real intimacy and real sex. So while it's not going to be as bad for you as just watching porn, it's not going to be as good for your rewire as actual physical intimacy, of course. So it's up to you. Experiment with it. If it seems to work and it's helping your relationship, it's helping you stay connected with your girlfriend, I say go for it. If it's not something that's important to the relationship and you can save your sexuality for those times when you are together in the real world, then that might be better for you. Once that relationship ended, I slipped straight back into porn until I was 18, when I met another girl. After a few dates, I went back to hers and we tried to have sex, and there was nothing. I blamed it on the nerves and she was so understanding. I went home that night crying because I knew that I had this problem for so long and chose to do nothing about it. The morning after, I booked an appointment with the local GP to have some physical examinations and some blood tests done. Physically, everything was fine, and they told me it was just performance anxiety, but I knew that it wasn't just that. You shouldn't blame yourself. At the time, it doesn't sound like you really knew that pornography was the cause, or that pornography was what was going to keep you from being able to have real sex, or even that you wouldn't be able to have real sex. So don't blame yourself, man. No one warned you when you were 11 years old that pornography could cause porn-induced ED. It wasn't even a term that was invented, as far as I know, at that time. So you're not to blame for what has happened to you. You are responsible for fixing it now, but don't wallow in the past or regret actions that you couldn't have taken because you weren't well informed enough. You're braver than me to go to the doctor and ask for help. That's good. I'm glad you did that. At least you got everything checked out and you know that it's nothing physically wrong with you. You should know that too if you can get an erection, a hard erection, easily to pornography, but not to real life. Obviously, there's nothing physically wrong with you if you can get erections easily with pornography. It's a neurological sexual conditioning problem. Even those guys who aren't able to get an erection, a strong erection to pornography anymore, it could still be a neurological problem and severe porn-induced ED rather than a physical problem, for anyone who's wondering. Yeah, they told you it was performance anxiety. That's because at that time, I'm not sure how old you are now or how long ago this was, but most doctors at that time, a few years ago even, would not have known about PIED, would never have heard that pornography use could cause ED. Now, it's starting to change. Like Gary Wilson has spoken at urology conferences. There are textbooks on neuroscience that now have chapters about behavioral addictions that mention porn-induced ED. More doctors are becoming aware of this issue and are asking these questions to young guys when they come in complaining of impotence or erectile difficulties. So that is starting to change. I see more and more clients come in who have said to me that they went to their doctor and their doctor in fact asked them about their porn use, how much they used, if they'd ever heard of porn-induced ED, and that's fantastic. That was one of my goals going into this, is to make this rise to the public consciousness so that when people had these problems, they could figure out the real answers and the real solutions. I went home that day distraught. I kept ringing the GP, asking if there was anything else they could do until they referred me to a urologist. Although once again, everything came through just fine. However, he did bring up the possibility of PIED, okay. And once he explained it, everything just pieced together. I was upset that I had done this to myself, but relieved because I finally knew what was wrong. The same day, I met with the girl I had been seeing and just flat out told her what the issue was, and she was so understanding. Yeah, a lot of us have this fear that if we tell someone that we masturbated ourselves to the point of impotence, that it's going to and the relationship will be judged harshly, they'll be disgusted by it, or some irrational fear. But most of the time, the vast majority of the time, the people we tell, if we tell them in a socially smooth way, and a way that allows them to understand how we got to this point, they will empathize with us and they'll admire us for having that courage to open up and tell the truth and be honest. A huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. We continued to see each other and we fell in love with each other. Good for you, man. I had not watched porn since the day I told her about my issue. However, I saw little to no recovery over the months we were together. We did manage to have sex, but the chances of it working were very small. Although we were rarely able to have sex. Why are there fireworks outside? Is it a holiday? It's April 28th. Ignore the fireworks. I'm gonna get a drink. All right. Although we were rarely able to have sex, we were still intimate with each other. Now don't get me wrong, having sex was amazing. Having that connection with someone is the best feeling in the world, but physically I feel I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought. And I blame that on how much I used to masturbate. I had desensitized myself. After some time, the lack of sex began to cause a rift between us, until it got to the point where we broke up. We were together for 8 months, and during that 8 months, I think I watched porn once or twice, and I saw very little improvement. I'm sorry to hear that, man, that led to the end of your relationship, and also that you seem to be one of the longer rebooters. It takes longer to get to the point where you feel fully recovered, you're enjoying sex as much as you should be, but that doesn't mean that you won't get there, or that you were doing something wrong. Sometimes it just takes 9 months, 12 months, a year and a half to get to that point where you're seeing really significant progress. I know that seems like a long time, but compare that to how long you've been using porn. What, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? I'm not sure how old you are. Oh, I'm currently 19 years old. 8 years, even that, long time. And it's not gonna take 8 years to recover, but it might take a year or a little bit more. Although looking back, we used to try really hard to get it to work, so maybe we were forcing it too much rather than letting myself recover. That's possible too. Some guys who are in relationships and are forcing sex too often and having orgasms when their body isn't really feeling that raw sexual urge, you're not really feeling horny, that can delay the healing process. It's like running on a sprained leg before it's ready. Once the relationship ended, I started to slip back into porn again, undoing the slither of recovery I had made. After a couple of months of non-stop PMOing, I achieved several streaks, some lasting just a couple of weeks and others a full month. This is where I really started to see recovery, although I had a long way to go. After another relapse, I went out on a night with my very close friend who I had liked for quite a bit. She was stunning, funny, and just one of the best people I know. We hooked up that night and spent hours just kissing. There was such a strong connection between us, as there had been a lot of chemistry between us for a good while. We started to see each other more, and we'd spend hours after hours just kissing and holding each other. However, like last time, I had to tell her about my issue, and she was fine with it. Again, a woman who understands. Damn fireworks. In her eyes, it was no issue if I was working to fix it. That's another thing. If you frame it such that you're aware of this issue, you've learned about it, it's something you're working on right now, you have a goal, you know what you have to do, and you're on your way toward reaching a solution, they're a lot more likely to accept it and admire you for recognizing your problems and working on them. We saw each other for about a month and a half, which led to my best streak yet. I saw so much improvement over the weeks, it was insane. I felt so comfortable about it with her. She never put any pressure on me, and I think that made the recovery a lot easier. Yeah, that's another thing, is that sometimes when guys are in these long reboots where they're not seeing much progress, a big part of it can be what emotional state are they in? Are they really anxious about their recovery? Are they checking themselves all the time? Are they feeling a lot of pressure to have sex before they're ready? All that anxiety and stress can add up and impede the recovery process, impede their the revival of their libido. So when you feel so comfortable with it, and you're just having fun and allowing things to happen in their own time, can actually speed up recovery quite a bit. Unfortunately, though, a relationship came to an end. as it was clear that we both weren't fully happy with ourselves, as I had my PIED and she had her own personal problems. This led me to binge like crazy. Are we seeing a pattern here? Whenever you get into a hard emotional time, you lose connection with somebody, you end a relationship, you feel alone, you turn back to what you know is going to make you feel better in the moment, even though it's going to make you feel worse later. You still have these patterns, these addictive patterns of going back to porn when you're in pain. You rely on porn as an emotional crutch, and that's something that you need to address. You need to understand that pattern, why it happens, how it happens, and then figure out how you can deal with those emotions in a more healthy way. I'm certain I understand that I erased all my progress, and these past 2 months have been the hardest time of my life. I'm struggling to quit pornography, and because of that, I am now currently suffering from horrendous anxiety, to the point where I can't even string a sentence together properly. I now lose my temper so easily, to the point where I just want to lash out over the smallest things. I have also resorted to punching my own leg to try to take my mind off of porn, so my knee is a bit jarred now. Every day I have suicidal thoughts. I just want to be cured of PIED. Like I said, this is the last straw for me. I've been trying to recover for around 2 years now, and my one wish is to be cured by the end of this year. I'm sorry it's such a long email, but I figured the more details you have, the easier it'll be to give some tips. Starting tomorrow morning, I will be giving the reboot another shot. No porn or masturbation, not even just to test if my erections are stronger. I'm also going to stay away from a relationship. I think I just need to focus on sorting myself out without getting somebody else involved. I really hope you can get back to me soon. In the meantime, keep doing what you're doing. You're an absolute hero. Thank you, Noah. Thank you for reaching out and telling your story. It's not a happy ending where this letter stands right now, but you're not giving up. You're trying again. You're getting back up on your feet, and you're trying to move forward. I would advise that you try something new. Seek help. Part of seeking help is writing me this letter, and I'm glad you did that. But if you're serious about considering suicide, you need to seek professional medical help. You need to talk with a psychotherapist who can help you through those issues. It's more than just pornography and PIED if you're really seriously considering suicide, and you should definitely seek assistance with that. Now, with the PIED, you know that it's possible. You've seen progress in the past. PIED isn't your real enemy here. It's your addiction that is the problem. It's your addiction that keeps bringing you back to porn, your dysfunctional stress circuits that make you crave pornography when you're feeling bad, when you're feeling depressed, you're feeling lonely. And those are also issues that you need to address. You should find a group, someone you can work with, a 12-step sex and porn addiction group, or you should find a coach. I'm available, of course. You should find something to help you break out of this cycle, because you are in a cycle. I've been in this cycle. I've seen this cycle dozens or hundreds of times, and it can last for years if you don't start changing things dramatically and really addressing the root of these problems. So I encourage you to get back to me, keep me updated about how this goes, and never give up, man. Life can be so beautiful and so overwhelmingly joyous, even when there are going to be painful parts and horrible lows in the future, even if you leave porn behind forever and you don't have PIED anymore. But it's all worth it for the high points in life, for the triumphs, for the pride that we accumulate when we do right by ourselves and by our friends and family and community, and when we live up to our own standards for ourselves. And you can do that, my friend, so don't give up. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this letter and learned from it. As always, you can find me and my work at addictedtointernetporn.com. Check out my book if you haven't done so already. You can get a free PDF copy on my website by subscribing to my newsletter. And if you ever need any personal help and guidance, I offer paid coaching, phone, Skype, email, all on my website. Fireworks. All right, everybody, have a wonderful PMO-free day. Peace.